Welcome back to Coffee and Headlines. This is September 16. Today is Mexican Independence Day, and here we are continuing our Independence Day celebration. For those of you that are new to Coffee and Headlines, this is our daily get-together live here on Facebook at 10:30 in the morning every single day of the week. And we're back home after a lovely afternoon yesterday at Hotel Mercurio. After the party was over, or while the party was beginning to wind down, I asked myself, do I want a nice air-conditioned night, or do I want a nice hot and balmy night with Luna? And I came home. So I am sitting here with my beloved kitty cat assistant. Somebody asked me, how is the hangover? It's actually quite fine, Craig. I did not overindulge in my Viva Mexicos. I did not overindulge in my celebratory spirits. I think common sense prevailed. So here we are. Another day, things to report. But first, the usual guidelines. If you're new to Coffee and Headlines, it is a pleasure to have you here with us. We get together every morning to exchange headlines, questions, topics, ideas, and suggestions that make our lives better as English-speaking folk living here in Puerto Vallarta. If you are new to the broadcast, please let us know by writing the word new in your comments and suggestions, and we'll do our best to give you a proper welcome. If you have specific questions or comments that you'd like to address, it helps us a lot if you add the letter Q to them. That way we know that this is important to you, and we try to get to it as quickly as possible. I see all kinds of familiar faces. It's great to see you. And for those of you that joined us yesterday afternoon for our special Grito celebration, it was great to hang out with you and be silly with you. It was great that some of you were able to tune in. But if not, Brian is also asking if I have a bad hangover. No, I actually, again, was very well behaved. I have a little bit of a headache, but that's just enough for me. With your permission, Daryl, yes, it was nice to meet you in person yesterday, of course. Thank you very much. I crossed paths with Daryl yesterday, and it is always nice to connect with you when we have a chance to meet. And Margaret, thank you so much for your comments. I hope you will be coming back to Vallarta soon so that we can follow up on that idea of doing a beautiful tour of your property, because your property is so emblematic here in Puerto Vallarta. There's so many stories behind it. I'm talking about Quinta Maria Cortés, of course, and Casa Tres Vidas, two gorgeous properties in Conchas Chinas. And yes, Elvin, I made it back home. Anyhow, because not everybody was with us yesterday, and with your permission, of course, I would like to replay our little overview of what goes on the actual Independence ceremony, Independence Day celebration, so that some of the headlines that I'm going to share with you today make a little bit more sense to you. So without further ado, let us dive into that. And here is what we played yesterday afternoon from Tequila and Headlines. Welcome to Mexico's Independence Day, our country's most important official celebration. The Grito De Dolores, or Cry of Dolores, is the act with which we commemorate Mexico's Independence Day every year. It took place in the morning of September 16, 1810, in the town of Dolores, now Dolores Hidalgo, in the state of Guanajuato. The cry, or call to action, was made by Mexican priest Miguel Hidalgo y Costilla to entice the population to join the rebellion against the Spanish regime that had prevailed in Mexico for quite some time. To get their attention, he rang the bell at the town parish. In reality, the Mexican Independence War was an armed conflict and political process lasting from 1808 to 1821 that manifested itself as a series of ongoing struggles rather than an individual incident, ultimately resulting in Mexico's independence from Spain on September 27, 1821, 11 years after the Cry of Dolores. It is generally understood that during the original Cry of Dolores, Hidalgo issued a series of vivas, or long live, but we may never know exactly what he said. According to some of the most credible historians of the time, Hidalgo could have cried viva or long live to a number of people and ideas, from the Virgin of Guadalupe to King Ferdinand VII, but ultimately we don't know exactly what words were spoken. It wasn't until 1825 that September 16 became a national holiday. Mexico President Guadalupe Victoria, the first president of Mexico, asked the population to decorate their homes, windows, and balconies with the colors of the Mexican flag. There was a parade on September 16 that year, followed by an evening fireworks display and large fiesta at the city's Zócalo. And although it is frequently believed that Mexican President Porfirio Díaz changed the celebration to the previous evening to coincide with his birthday, the celebration moved to September 15 just before midnight as early as 1824, even before it became a national holiday. What he can be credited with, however, was the decision to relocate the original bell from the Dolores Hidalgo parish to Mexico City and have it installed at El Palacio Nacional just above its main balcony. In modern-day Mexico, El Grito, or Cry for Independence, takes place every September 15 shortly before midnight. Our president takes to the Palacio Nacional's main balcony, issues a number of vivas, rings the original bell from the parish of Dolores, and waves the Mexican flag as the national anthem is played along with a fireworks display. This is usually followed by a traditional fiesta with lots of food and music and dancing, but of course, not this year, not anywhere in Mexico. Curiously enough, even though this is Mexico's most important official celebration, there is no official protocol for it. As such, our presidents, governors, and city mayors throughout the country pronounce the vivas outlined here, with the name of other independence heroes. However, it is not uncommon for such officials to add a personal touch by throwing other names into the mix. Who will our president name this year? Or our city mayor? We will just have to find out later on tonight. Viva México! So, was there Viva Coffee and Headlines? Was there Viva Luna? Was there Viva anything important? We submitted our requests, but let me show you exactly what went on. Locally, of course, we knew that our mayor, Arturo Dávalos, gave his gritos virtually last night from City Hall here in Puerto Vallarta. It was broadcast on social media, and there's always scrutiny as to who our governors are mentioning in their hurrahs or hoorays or vivas. Um, and Our mayor didn't mention anyone specific. Obviously, he said Viva Puerto Vallarta, which is expected. Governor Alfaro, like many governors around the country, dedicated the ceremony to health workers, and his grito, his vivas included vivas for the men and women that have been looking after our well-being through the pandemic, including Viva to the heroes that have looked after us in the middle of this sanitary emergency. Viva to the Mexican person, to the medical personnel, and the health personnel of our state, is what our governor mentioned. President Lopez Obrador, of course, also gave his grito at El Zócalo in Mexico City, but the Zócalo was empty this time around. What they did in El Zócalo is they created this beautiful display on the esplanade that featured a map of Mexico. You can sort of see it here. It is a multicolored map of our country with, of course, the three national colors. So the president made his statement, made his vivas, and we'll get into his vivas in a second. And then of course, we enjoyed a beautiful fireworks display that was shown on social media and, of course, on public television channels. Elsewhere around the world, Mexican independence was celebrated through the illumination or the lighting of important buildings such as the Burj Khalifa in Dubai, the Torre Colpatria in Colombia, the Empire States in the United States, the Obelisco in Buenos Aires, and the Eiffel Tower in France. Of course, we're grateful to Google because the Google Doodle this on today celebrates our Mexican independence as well. Now, as I mentioned in the little video that I shared with you, there is no official protocol to who each president decides to hurrah or hooray, but there's always public scrutiny. And this year, President Andrés Manuel López Obrador had 20 of them. The traditional ones, of course, the first 6, which were given to the independents, to Miguel Hidalgo, to José María Morelos, Josefa Ortiz de Domínguez, Ignacio Allende, and Leona Vicario, who were all original Independence Day heroes. And if they sound like streets here in Puerto Vallarta, that's because they are, as they tend to be around the world. I mean, around Mexico. But then, of course, he continued with vivas dedicated to the heroic people of Mexico, the indigenous communities, Mexico's great cultural diversity, to liberty, justice, democracy, equality, sovereignty, universal fraternity, love for the common man, and hope for tomorrow. Those were the vivas that President López Obrador included, of course, with the traditional final 3 vivas being Viva Mexico, repeated 3 times. Of course, with all the independence celebrations canceled throughout Mexico for health and sanitary reasons, we can say that fireworks manufacturers didn't feel all that happy about that decision, because whereas they usually make a big killing during the celebrations, that goes up to 1,000 million pesos according to some official documents. This year, fireworks were very strictly monitored and forbidden, which of course was not good for this industry, but keeping in mind that contamination in our environment can increase by up to 70% with fireworks displays, and it can lead to all kinds of problems with people that suffer chronic breathing problems. It was a nice change for a change, pardon the pun, that this year not only did we not have the smokiness that we usually tend to have, and of course our pets were not wigging out with all the incessant thundering. Something else that went on yesterday, as we mentioned, is the national lottery. There are now 100 new millionaires in Mexico because the lottery, the Mexican, the national, the presidential plane lottery promised 100 Mexicans would receive 20 million pesos each. And so was the case. The lottery took place yesterday afternoon. Among the winners, people have started to identify that a few hospitals and a kindergarten. And I have read somewhere that a person from Tepic is among the new millionaires. In other news, no sooner than the new subway or rapid train line was installed in Guadalajara that it was vandalized by local graffiti artists. The governor was not happy about this. And of course, there was also the whole issue that as soon as these new subway or rapid train stations were ready, vendors started setting up shop outside of these new stations. And of course, this has been an increasing problem for large cities like Guadalajara and increasingly more Puerto Vallarta, in which vendors that don't have the authority to sell their wares simply start doing so. And this is something that the city, of course, will have to monitor quite intensely in the days to come. I also wanted to let you know that starting tomorrow, the activities that take place at City Hall and all the other municipal offices are resumed. This means that employees that were not, all the workers that are scheduled to work, with the exception, of course, of pregnant women and those that are over 65 years of age, should show up to work as usual. What this means for us is that more and more we are able to go back to City Hall and all its dependencies to do whatever paperwork we need to do when we are there. And let's see, where are we in the news? What is next? I think we are still, no, we have one more before I check in with you. More and more local media are raising awareness over the fact that given the increasing number of landslides that we've had in the last few days, there is a serious chance that Puerto Vallarta could become completely incommunicated. There have been landslides on the highway from Guadalajara, both north and south of Puerto Vallarta, and there's also been landslides on the highway that goes to Guadalajara through Mascota. So hopefully the authorities are going to increase the workload that they have, or increase the capacity to address these landslides as we move forward through the rain season. And I'm going to very quickly take a look at your comments and questions to make sure that we are on the same page. Thank you very much for your comments. Viva Paco, Viva Luna. I love it. Thank you very much, Karen. Suzanne Swallow McMillan asks, is the American Consulate open in Nuevo Vallarta? I actually don't know. I wonder if you've tried giving them a call or sent them a message through Facebook. Chances are that they are not open because it's a Mexican holiday today. Today, banks and all kinds of buildings are closed. So I would be surprised if today the American Consulate is open. But of course, they're just a phone call away. That would be that would be something that you could probably research. Mushi shares a link that about lords and ladies. I will have to research that in a second. And Kathleen asks, is there a place where we can find out if the landslide is cleared on the way to the botanical garden? Not that I know of, but again, Kathleen, if you get in touch with the nice folks at the botanical garden, chances are that at least one of their employees had to come from Puerto Vallarta this morning So this might be a way in which you can get an answer to your question. With that in mind, let me switch over to the weather, but not before saying good morning to Diane. Good morning, Diane. And now let's switch over to the weather. The weather says that's right. I'm making it rain, and this is a good thing. Right now we are at 26 degrees Celsius. Feels like 30. That would be 79 degrees Fahrenheit. Humidity is 100%, and boy, can I feel it. Let's see. There is a 49% chance of rain right now, and according to the weather forecast, it's going to be rainy and humid through the day, and rainy and humid through the day tomorrow, and possible light rain overnight until Friday morning, starting again in the evening. So we're looking at 3 wet days, so take your precautions if you're out and about. I see that Mark has posted some hours. Not entirely sure what these hours are for, whether they are, oh, they must be for the Consulate. Thank you very much, Mark. Moving on to some other headlines that I want to share with you. Apparently, the cruise industry is fairly certain that they will resume cruises in 2020, and this could actually happen in the month of November. I haven't seen anything specific printed about this anywhere, but the Mexican Cruise Line Association is certain that there is a possibility that this will happen. Needless to say, the return of cruise ships to our destination has a lot to do with whatever guidelines are deployed in the United States to that effect, as most of the cruises, in fact, I believe all of the cruises that touch base here that dock here in Puerto Vallarta come from the United States. In other news, we see that 5 Canadian airlines are going to start flying again. This includes Air Transat, WestJet, Air Canada, Sunwing, and Swoop Air. This last one announced that their first flight to the destination will be on the 25th of October, flying from Edmonton. The other airlines are also going to begin flying in the last week of October, between the last week of October and the first 2 weeks of November. So if you've been looking for ways to make reservations and fly back to Puerto Vallarta, these are the airlines. If you're in Canada, these are the airlines that you may want to research to see exactly when and how you can fly back if you choose to do so. And the last headline that I have has, again, to do with movie going, because this headline comes from the New York Times. Movie theaters returned, audiences didn't. Now what? So I haven't had a chance to read this, but because I've been really interested in what's going on with the movie-going practices here, there, and everywhere, I'm going to be taking a look at this. So before we go, I want to take a last look at any comments you may have. Sly thinks that I'm sweating because the tequila's coming out. Well, I wouldn't be surprised if there's some truth to that, but it's also really hot today. And sweat is good, I suppose. Anyhow, more and more Puerto Vallarta is coming back to life, or coming to new life. More and more people are taking, are broadening their comfort level in terms of their going out and doing things. And it continues to be a thought-provoking thing, because business people are concerned about public opinion, and people are concerned about the guidelines. People have issues about whether it's safe to be out or not. And I continue to think that this is increased. This is not going to go overnight, and we know that. This is going to be something that is going to progressively shift into directions that even our health officials are still wondering what's going to happen. But this is just a little personal reminder from Luna and myself that, ultimately, trusting people around us, knowing that there's always going to be a chance that that something might happen. It could not even be COVID related, but I mean, as we choose to continue to live our lives, we have to be mindful of that. Sharon asks, do I know anything about a market in the new marina across from the casino? I have heard that there is a new market at Puerto Mágico, which is the name of the new terminal, but I don't have any details. If you check the Puerto Mágico page on Facebook, chances are that you will find some details about it there. Steve feels that movie theaters are a COVID trap. Again, Steve, I wonder how much of that is coming from your perspective of it, or I wonder how much of that is coming from research. And that's where, and this is not about putting your comment in the spotlight or anything. That's where we balance what we hear from what we know and what comes from reliable sources and what comes from people that have been there and have come back. I mean, in reality, I could, touch the handle on the downstairs door to my apartment building, and if somebody with COVID touched it, maybe I'll get the disease, and I didn't have to go to the movie theater or go to a restaurant or go anywhere. So this is where, we need to decide how much comfortable we are going to feel, or we need to feel before we go places. But that's just me. Steve says, no problem, Paco. Again, I didn't mean to make it about you. I struggle with these decisions every single day. There are certain things that I still won't do. I won't take buses, for example, public transportation. But I have friends that are taking buses and they're doing okay. So, it is a personal thing as far as I'm concerned. Susan asks, so no fireworks? There have been some every evening, I've noticed. Well, no specific fireworks for Independence Day. Again, it is traditional in Mexico, in all cities, for the governments to do fireworks displays that are large in comparison to whatever other fireworks displays that go on in the destination. Here in Puerto Vallarta, we have fireworks just about every night. So it just happens that they were canceled for last night because they didn't want large amounts of people gathering out and about. Thank you, Raymond, for sharing what I think is the Facebook page for that new market. There might be some information about that. Kimberly says there were fireworks last night here in Puerto Vallarta. I am sure there were, but again, I do know that people from Seguridad Pública, the public safety of officers, were out and about making sure that people were not congregating excessively in public areas like the Malecón and things like that. So with all that said and done, I think this is a good moment to take a break from today's broadcast. Yay! We survived Mexican independence in this very strange year. We're continuing through the rest of the week with, and the rest of the month for that matter, with more interesting capsules about Mexico's history or Mexico's legacy to the world. We're going to do that through the entire month. Between now and then, if you found anything helpful, useful, amusing, interesting, enlightening, or otherwise entertaining about Coffee and Headlines, feel free to click on the link below and find out ways in which you can support Coffee and Headlines if you choose to do so. If not, we're always grateful when you share news about this program with your friends. It helps us a lot. So until we meet again, please stay happy, stay calm, stay safe, and stay well connected, and stay kind to those around you. I will see you again soon.